A few weeks ago, I fled the city. I was looking for peace after a tough breakup. I found an old seaside town and moved into an apartment above the local cafe. It was cute, with cobblestone streets and a lighthouse that seemed to watch over everything. I thought it would be a fresh start. But then, the storms came. It was a stormy night when the strange melody woke me up. At first, I thought it was the wind. Thunder boomed outside, but that tune lingered in my mind. I sat up, my heart racing. Something felt off. I didn't know if I should investigate. Maybe there were festival leftovers. But I couldn't convince myself to ignore it. The next few days were even stranger. Shadows moved in the cafe, but they didn't match their owners. I saw a barista pour coffee for someone who wasn't there. I blinked hard. I thought I was seeing things, but it happened too many times. I started chatting with locals. They whispered about the town's past and unseen forces. Their words felt heavy, like a storm was brewing just beneath the surface. One evening, I found myself drawn to the lighthouse. Despite the weather, I wanted to see it up close. The light cut through the fog, almost calling to me. I opened a hidden door I discovered there. The room felt alive with energy. I wasn't sure what I was searching for, but as I stepped inside, I heard the wind howl outside mixed with that haunting melody. It felt cold, like the room was breathing. Inside, I found strange artifacts. There was a broken compass, an old sailor's journal, and something that looked like a charm. I wanted to leave, but I felt a pull towards the journal. As I touched it, the lights flickered. I heard a whisper, "Help me." My skin crawled. I stumbled back. Maybe I was just tired. I couldn't be sure. This was just part of moving to a new place, right? The next night, as the storm raged on, that melody returned. It was clearer this time. I stood at my window, mesmerized, watching the wind batter against it. Suddenly, I saw something in the shadows below, a figure at the edge of the cafe's light. My blood ran cold. I thought about calling out, but I hesitated. The figure turned to look at me. I gasped. There was nothing there. Just darkness. I didn't know what to make of it. What had I really found? Was this all in my mind? The townspeople seemed to know something I didn't. The weight of their secrets felt heavy. I needed answers. But as the storms continued, I wasn't sure if I was ready to uncover the truth hidden beneath them. I woke up to rain hammering against my window. The storm was still here, raging outside, as if it wouldn't let me forget about the chill that gripped the town. More unsettling than the weather were my memories of the figure in the shadows. I knew I had to push through the fear and seek answers. After breakfast, I decided to visit the cafe below. Maybe I could get some insight from the baristas. I stepped down the creaky stairs, each step echoing my unease. The cafe was cozy, filled with the scent of coffee and pastries, yet I felt a heaviness in the air, a tension that prickled at my skin. As I walked in, I caught sight of Sophie, one of the baristas. Her smile faded when I approached. "You okay?" she asked, concern flashing in her eyes. I hesitated. Should I mention the shadows? I opted for a safer route. Just feeling a bit uneasy with the storm. "I've noticed some strange things lately." Sophie glanced around, then leaned in. "You're not the first. The lighthouse, it has a way of drawing people in. But it takes two." Her tone turned serious, and I felt a shiver. I wanted her to say more, but she fell silent. Instead, she busied herself making a latte, clearly reluctant to share. Feeling unsettled, I decided to leave, but not before an old man caught my eye. He sat in the corner, nursing a cup of tea and watching me intently. As I locked eyes with him, I could see something behind his gaze, knowledge, maybe. I approached him, my curiosity igniting. "What do you know about the lighthouse?" I asked. "Ah, the light steals more than just the dark," he said, his voice low. It haunts the souls of those who were lost at sea. They call for help. If you hear their song, it can lead you to places better left alone. My stomach turned. I thought about the whispers I heard from the journal. I wrapped up the conversation and hurried back to my apartment. The storm outside felt louder now, almost like it was trying to drown out the voices in my head. I rummaged through my thoughts and realized I had forgotten to check the sailor's journal again. What if he wrote about those who went missing? With a knot in my stomach, I grabbed it off my nightstand and opened it. The pages were filled with tales of shipwrecks and storms. Descriptions of eerie melodies echoed through the lines. I stumbled onto an entry that mentioned a vessel named the Seafarer. The name sent a ripple of recognition through me. My heart raced as I turned to the next page, that is when I saw it, a rough sketch of a figure resembling the shadow I had seen. The entry ended abruptly, as if the sailor had been interrupted. The hair on my arms stood on end. I glanced around my dimly lit apartment. Was someone still watching? Suddenly, the window rattled, and I heard that haunting melody rise above the sound of the storm. I felt it pulling at me again, urging me towards the lighthouse. Without thinking, I grabbed my coat and headed out. Whatever was out there, I needed to confront it. Maybe I would finally uncover the truth, or perhaps I would lose myself in the darkness forever. The rain lashed against my coat as I stepped outside, the wind biting at my face. The melody wrapped around me, almost tangible, calling me toward the lighthouse. I trudged through the muddy streets, my heart pounding. Was this a mistake? What if the old man was right? What if I found something better left alone? As I neared the cliff where the lighthouse stood, a shadow darted past, vanishing into the darkness. I froze, my breath hitching. Who else was out here? I shook off the chill and pressed on, the beam of light from the lighthouse cutting through the storm. It felt both comforting and foreboding. The narrow path to the lighthouse was slippery. I caught myself more than once. The wind howled, drowning out everything but that eerie song. Each step felt like a challenge, but my curiosity outweighed my fear. When I finally reached the structure, I hesitated. The door creaked open as if inviting me in. Inside, the air was damp and cold. I shivered, my senses on high alert. I needed to find answers, but what awaited me inside? I stepped further in, my footsteps echoing against the stone. As I reached the spiral staircase, I paused. The light above flickered as if beckoning me. I began climbing, each step heavier than the last. Halfway up, I heard a whisper my name, softly carried on the wind. I froze. Who was there? Was it the shadows I had seen? I continued upward, feeling a pull toward the lantern room. When I reached the top, I swung open the door. The view was breathtaking, but the beauty was short-lived. A figure stood by the glass, staring out at the raging sea. My breath caught in my throat. Who are you? I called out, my voice trembling. The figure turned, and I gasped. It was a woman, her hair streaming like seaweed, her eyes dark and deep. You're not supposed to be here, she said, her voice low and melodic, just like the song I'd heard. What do you mean? I stepped back, trying to make sense of her presence. I'm looking for answers. There are things you don't want to know, she replied, her gaze piercing. The lighthouse is not just a beacon. It holds secrets, dark magic and lost souls. Her words sent shivers through me. Suddenly, the light flickered violently, and the wind howled louder. A deafening crash shook the building, and I stumbled. The woman's expression shifted, fear crossing her face. You must leave. She cried, rushing towards me. I turned to exit, but the staircase was now engulfed in shadows. The descent became a frantic scramble as I felt a presence drawing closer. Panic clawed at my throat. One wrong step, and I would be lost. Then I heard the song again, louder now, urging me to stay. But the woman's warning rang in my ears. I burst through the door and ran into the storm. Rain lashed my face, blurring my vision as I raced away from the lighthouse that I didn't stop until I reached the edge of town, gasping for breath. I turned back, glancing at the lighthouse, now a dark silhouette against the lightning. What had I just encountered? I was left with more questions than answers, and as I stood there, drenched and trembling, the melody returned. But this time, it felt closer, like it was right behind me. Someone or something was still watching. I stood frozen at the edge of town, my heart racing. The lighthouse loomed in the distance, the storm still raging around me. Just when I thought I could catch my breath, a chilling gust of wind sent a shiver down my spine. I felt the weight of those unseen eyes upon me again. Get a grip, I whispered to myself. I turned to head home, but my feet seemed reluctant, as if drawn back toward the lighthouse. I shook my head. I had to ignore it. I had seen something terrifying up there, and whatever that woman was warning me about, I didn't want to find out. As I walked, the melody floated through the rain, tempting and haunting. I clenched my fists, gritting my teeth against the growing urge to turn back. When I reached the edge of town, something caught my attention. There was an old shop, its storefront nearly hidden by overgrown weeds. I couldn't remember ever seeing it before. It had a sign that read Curiosities and Oddities. The windows were fogged up, but I thought I glimpsed shapes moving around inside. Surely it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. But the nagging curiosity tugged at my mind. I took a step toward the door, half expecting it to creak as I entered. To my surprise, it swung open easily. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of incense. Shelves lined the walls, filled with strange artifacts. Crystals glinted in the dim light, and jars filled with unidentifiable contents cluttered every surface. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing. Silence greeted me. I stepped inside, feeling both intrigued and unnerved. The flickering light from the rain-covered window cast peculiar shadows, making the room feel alive. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the back, startling me. A woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes emerged, her hands clasped together. There was something otherworldly about her. "You seek answers," she said, her voice a blend of kindness and caution. I need to know what I experienced at the lighthouse," I stammered. "There was this woman, yes." "The Songkeeper," the woman interrupted. "You've heard her, haven't you? Her melody calls to those who are lost." I felt my stomach knot. What does it mean? Who is she? The woman took a step closer, her eyes narrowing. "The Songkeeper weaves magic from sorrow. The lighthouse holds her spirit, trapped between worlds." She paused, studying my face. "You must tread carefully. Dark forces are at play here." A chill swept over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already in deeper than I could handle. "What do you mean?" "Others are drawn to her song, too," she warned. "Not all who hear it return unchanged." Before I could reply, the door to the shop swung shut with a force that rattled the windows. My heart dropped. I spun around, but the room was empty now. The woman had vanished, then I heard it again, the song, clear and melodic, closer than ever. Panic surged through me. I rushed for the door, but it wouldn't budge. Something began to whisper my name from behind the shelves, the urgency washed over me like the rain outside. I had to escape, to find out what grip the lighthouse had on me before it was too late. But now, I was trapped. What had I opened, and who or what was looking for me? I pulled harder on the door, my muscles straining against it. It wouldn't budge. Panic turned to anger. "Let me out!" I shouted. My voice bounced off the walls, swallowed by the thick silence that followed. The whispering grew louder, wrapping around me. It sounded like my name, but it was twisted, distorted. I spun around, my eyes darting over the shelves. Was someone actually in here with me? "Show yourself," I demanded, though my voice trembled. No response came, just more shadows slinking in the corners, flickering in the dim light. I started pacing the small floor space, trying to calm my racing heart. That silver-haired woman had said dark forces were at play. My mind raced with thoughts of the Songkeeper and her haunting melody. What did she want from me? Just then, I caught a glint from the corner of my eye, a reflection of light. I approached the source, and there it was, a small, ornate mirror perched on a cluttered shelf. The frame was old, engraved with intricate symbols that looked almost alive. The glass was cloudy, but I could make out my reflection. Something shifted behind me. I froze. My instinct told me to keep my eyes on the mirror, but I had to look. I turned slowly, expecting to see the woman again. Instead, the room was as empty as it had been. But the whispering hadn't stopped. It buffeted against me like an electric storm that I turned back to the mirror, and my heart dropped. My reflection was gone. Instead, a swirling mist filled the glass, and I could barely breathe. It was as if the mirror had opened a door to another world. I leaned closer, mesmerized. "What are you?" The whispering grew more frantic, almost pleading. "Help her, free her," I cringed. The words felt sharp, like icy fingers gripping my chest. Suddenly, the mirror flickered, and an image formed. I saw the lighthouse, but it looked different, dark, menacing, and alive. The ocean churned wildly around it, and in the distance, I glimpsed a figure standing atop the rocks. Long hair danced with the wind, and I knew at once it was the Songkeeper. "Stop!" I yelled, startled by the sudden intensity of my own voice. But the image flickered again, and the woman's face twisted in a silent scream before vanishing. Panic washed over me. Was this a warning or a plea? I stumbled back, tripping over a pile of boxes. I had to find a way out. My fingers brushed against the shelves. Maybe one of these artifacts held the key to opening the door. Then I heard a soft scratching sound coming from behind the counter. My breath caught. Something was there. I whipped around, heart hammering. I had to know. Taking a deep breath, I moved toward the counter. Each step felt like an eternity. That's when I saw it. A small creature, no bigger than my hand, peeking out from between the cracks. It had wide, glassy eyes and a twisted grin. It laughed softly, but the sound sent shivers down my spine. "Why are you hiding?" I asked, terror mixing with curiosity. It tilted its head, as if weighing my question. In that moment, the lights flickered, and the shadows closed in. Someone was in the shop after all. And whatever it was wanted me to stay. I stood frozen, staring at the little creature. Its twisted grin widened as it shimmied out further. A raspy voice broke the silence, "You're not supposed to be here." The words slithered into my ears, and I felt a chill spread across my skin. "What do you mean?" I demanded, though part of me wanted to bolt out of the shop, door or no door. "I just want to leave." It let out a wheezing laugh, and I took a shaky step back. "Leaving isn't your choice," it said, the gleam in its eyes too bright, too hungry. The shadows around us seemed to pulse closer, and I could almost feel them brushing against my skin, the urge to flee warred with the need to understand. "What do you want?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Her," it rasped, pointing a gnarled finger toward the mirror. I whipped my head back to the glass. The swirling mist was gone now, replaced by the lighthouse from before. But the image was darker, the waves crashing more violently, and the Songkeeper was still there, her figure growing fainter. "No. I want to help you," I shouted, instinctively stepping in front of the mirror. The creature's mouth twisted into a frown. "You have to. You don't understand the price." Before I could respond, a loud crash rang out from outside. My heart jumped as the door rattled violently against its frame. The air grew heavy and electric. "What is that?" I whispered, my attention divided between the creature and the door. "Storm's coming," it hissed, as if it was relishing my fear. And so are the others. Panic surged through me again. I needed to get out. I took a hesitant step toward the door, but the scratching sound from earlier intensified, now echoing with new voices that chanted my name. No. Get away. I cried, backing up against the counter. Stay here, the creature said with a chilling calmness. They'll find you. The door slammed open suddenly, flinging against the wall with a loud bang. Rain poured in, whipping around me like a torrential flood. My instinct kicked in, and I dashed toward the opening, but I stopped short at the sight in the doorway that a shadowed figure loomed, tall and shrouded in a cloak, its face obscured. The creature cackled, "She's here. We must take her. Please, I don't want anything to do with this." I shouted, my breath quickening. But somewhere deep inside, I felt an urgency, a call to uncover what lay behind the darkness. Then the figure stepped forward, revealing not just a face but countless eyes swirling within its hood. "You are chosen," it rasped, each word cutting through the storm's roar. "But could you save her?" I felt the weight of the moment crash down. There was more at play than I understood. Maybe freeing the Songkeeper was my only option. But was I ready to face whatever dark forces that came with such a choice? And as I stood there, straddling the line between fear and destiny, I realized the shadows weren't the only ones watching. I had no more time to think. My heart thundered as the figure stepped closer, the storm raging behind it. I could feel the raw energy crackling in the air, thick and sharp. "What does that mean, I'm chosen?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The creature in the shop snickered, its laughter grating against my ears. "You know nothing, girl. The lighthouse calls for a sacrifice." As the shadowed figure moved into the light, its eyes glimmered like stars swallowed by darkness. I could see patches of skin beneath its hood, mottled and stretched, as if it had existed for ages. "The storm will separate you from the world," it said, almost soothingly. "You must embrace it." "Embrace what?" I shot back, frustration mixing with fear. I didn't want to be a part of any of this. My gaze shifted back to the mirror, where the Songkeeper had flickered one last time, her image becoming nothing more than a fleeting memory. "No!" I shouted, turning away from the mirror. "I want to let you take her." The creature's laughter echoed in the room, blending with the thunder outside. "It's too late. The storm is here, and the darkness wants to play." Suddenly, a bolt of lightning illuminated the room, casting long shadows against the walls. In that brief flash, I saw the mirror's surface ripple, not with mist, but with something darker, whispers of lost souls. My stomach twisted. "Listen closely," the figure rasped, tilting its head as if I were a curious insect. "You might find what you seek in the depths of despair." I shook my head, taking a step back, desperate for clarity. "I want to leave," I cried, my voice breaking. The memories of the light and the Songkeeper felt like hope slipping through my fingers. The creature's eyes narrowed, its twisted grin returning. "Leaving isn't an option. You're tangled in this storm now." A crash echoed again from the storm, a sound different from the wind. My instincts flared. "What else is out there?" I asked, fear solidifying in my throat. The shadowed figure raised a hand. "More than you can imagine. Secrets that bind this town and the song you heard." I licked my lips, hoping to buy time. "Tell me about the Songkeeper." With a grave look, the figure said, "She sings to hold the darkness at bay, but without her, it will consume everything, even you." "Why me?" I whispered, my breath catching as another wave of energy surged through the air. "Because you can hear the call." Then all at once, the world around me seemed to shift. A rumble of thunder rocked the windows, and with it came an urgent pull of force beyond my control. Something was coming, something that would change everything. And in that moment of chaos, I found the strength to push against the currents of fear. "If I can save her, I will," I shouted, though doubts brewed within me. Then prepare yourself, the figure warned. The storm is just beginning, and you're not alone in this fight. I felt it, the shadows creeping closer, breathing my name. This was no longer just about escaping, it was about facing whatever lay ahead. As the first wave of chilling darkness swept through the room, I realized it was too late to turn back. Someone else, or something else, joined the storm. My pulse quickened as I turned to face the shadows. And then everything went dark. I woke up gasping, my heart racing. The darkness was profound, thick like ink, suffocating and cold. I squinted, trying to see anything in the void. My instincts screamed to move, and I pushed up from the floor, my hands searching for anything solid. A flash of lightning cut through the darkness, and I blinked. Time seemed to stretch. I was back in the shop, the shadows still present but somehow transformed. The mirror now shimmered with a faint light, revealing twisted reflections of myself that made me shiver. But beyond that, I could see shapes swirling, like smoke, close to the edges of the room. I felt a presence. Someone or something was watching me. "Hello?" I croaked, my voice barely breaking the stillness. "Welcome to the storm, chosen one," a voice echoed, deep and melodic, wrapping around my thoughts like smoke. It was different from the creature I had encountered before. Calmer, almost inviting. I forced myself to move toward the voice, trapped between curiosity and dread. "What do you want?" "In time, you will understand," it replied. "The storms reveal truths, both beautiful and terrible." "Truths?" I asked, hesitating. "Like what? What am I supposed to do?" "Find the Songkeeper," the voice urged. "You must unite her song with your heart before the darkness takes its toll." The ground trembled as the shadows shifted closer, pulling me in every direction. I could feel the urgency. I had to act. "But where is she?" The figure appeared in the distance, cloaked in shadow. "She is close, yet so far," it whispered. "Listen closely. The storm will show you the way." With that, the shadows began to swirl around me, forming peaks and valleys as if the very air was alive. I stumbled back, panic rising. "No. I need to leave." "Leaving will not save you, child," the voice replied. "You are part of something larger now. The lighthouse calls, and you have an important role to play." A rush of wind swept past me, and with it came a vision flashes of the town, of the lighthouse standing strong against the storm. Within it, I saw the Songkeeper, her voice a beacon of light battling the encroaching darkness. "Is that real?" I whispered, the image fading. "Can she still be saved?" A low chuckle echoed. In storms, truths shift as quickly as the winds. Yet, hope remains, even here. I felt the urge to scream, but instead, I drew a deep breath. "Then I have to find her. I can't let the darkness win." "Your resolve is commendable," the voice said softly. "But understand, every choice has consequences." The shadows shifted, growing restless. I caught one last glimpse of the lighthouse before the darkness swallowed it whole again. My heart dropped, and I felt the weight of what lay ahead. Then I saw it, a faint glow in the distance, cutting through the pitch black. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but I could sense its familiarity. The lighthouse. "Go," the voice urged. "Follow the light, but beware. You are not alone, and shadows still linger." With that direction pounding in my mind, I started moving. Fear gripped my heart, but the light ahead called me home. And just as I stepped forward, the shadows lunged, and I flinched. That's when I heard her voice, the haunting melody that wrapped around me, just like the storm. I felt it pull me in, guiding me. The Songkeeper was near, and her song was my only hope. I pushed forward into the swirling shadows, each step feeling like a battle against a tide of fear. The soft light flickered ahead, guiding me like a lighthouse in the night. I held on to the hope that the Songkeeper was there, waiting for me. But the air crackled with tension, and the shadows twisted and churned. I could hear whispers now, echoing all around me. They were indistinct at first but gradually grew louder, more urgent. "Turn back, you don't belong here." Ignoring them took effort. I clenched my fists and kept moving, determined to reach the light. Goosebumps prickled my arms as another chill wind swept through the expansive void. Then I heard a sharp gasp behind me. I whipped around to see a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness. My heart leaped into my throat. Was it friend or foe? "Stop!" I called out. "Who are you?" The figure hesitated. "I'm just as lost as you," it replied, its voice trembling. "But I heard her song too." "Then you know the Songkeeper?" I asked, hope fluttering in my chest. "Yes," the figure said slowly, stepping closer into the flickering light. It was a girl about my age, her features obscured but familiar. "But we must hurry. The shadows are growing restless." I nodded, feeling a strange bond form between us. "I'm trying to find her. I have to unite her song with my heart." "Then we're headed in the same direction," she said. "I'm Lila. We can figure this out together." Just as relief washed over me, a rumble of thunder shook the ground. The shadows surged forward, their forms twisting into grotesque shapes. "The storm is closing in," I whispered, fear creeping back in. Lila grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. "Stay close. We can't let them separate us. The shadows feed on fear." We pressed onward, the light ahead pulling at me like the tide. But just as we reached it, a wall of darkness surged up, blocking our way. It felt alive, breathing and shifting. "Where is she?" I shouted into the void. "Look," Lila said, pointing to the edges of the shadow wall. "There's a pattern in the darkness. We have to find it." As I focused, I saw flickers of movement within the shadows, almost like dancing flames. "I think I see something," I exclaimed. I took a step back, observing where the darkness ebbed and flowed. "Hold on!" Lila yelled. She grabbed a nearby shard of light and hurled it at the mass of shadows. The moment the light struck, a bright flash illuminated the darkness, scattering some of the shadows temporarily. A doorway opened in the chaos, revealing a glimpse of the lighthouse beyond. I could hear the Songkeeper now, her melody getting clearer. "This way!" I shouted, pulling Lila with me. But as we dashed toward the opening, I sensed movement behind us again. Shadows lunged, and something cold gripped my ankle, pulling me back. Panic flooded my veins. "Let go!" I screamed, struggling to break free. Lila turned back, her eyes wide. "I'll help you." But just then, thunder roared above us, shattering the moment. The wall of shadows seemed to ripple with excitement, closing in once more. I could feel the darkness coating my skin, and fear tried to take root. "Together!" Lila shouted. "We can break through." I gritted my teeth, refusing to be swallowed whole. "Okay. On 3. As I counted, I focused on the melody of the Songkeeper, hoping her voice would guide us through. "Ready? 1, 2, 3. We charged forward, launching ourselves into the opening just as the shadows closed in. The sound of darkness howling behind us was deafening, but we didn't stop, and that's when I felt a surge of light within me, stirring to life as we crossed into the safety of the lighthouse. But my heart sank in that moment. What if it's not enough? I turned around, ready to confront whatever was chasing us, knowing now that the real battle lay ahead. As the door of the lighthouse swung shut behind us, I felt an unfamiliar sense of stillness envelop me. The wild storm outside faded, replaced by a mist that swirled at my feet, wrapping around my ankles like an embrace. I turned to Lila, our breaths heavy in the sudden quiet. Her eyes mirrored the intensity of my fear and determination. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, her voice barely rising above the soft sigh of the wind. The haunting melody of the Songkeeper echoed in the air, sweet yet sorrowful, as if it carried the weight of every lost soul who had ever stood here. It vibrated through my bones and urged me to follow. We stepped further into the lighthouse, a beacon of trembling light that swayed gently above us. My heart raced as I climbed the spiral staircase, its steps worn and polished from generations of restless spirits. Each movement felt purposeful, dissolving the layers of darkness that clung to me like shadows. The Songkeeper's song grew louder as we ascended, beckoning us towards the lantern room. In that moment, I realized that my resolve was more than just about survival. It was about freedom, not only for myself but for the souls tethered in this haunting place. I could almost envision the shadows reluctantly retreating from the warmth of the light as we climbed higher. At the top, the lantern room unveiled itself, a sanctuary surrounded by glass panes that framed the storm-soaked ocean. And there she was. The Songkeeper lingered just beyond the glass, her ethereal form shimmering with a luminescent glow. The melody pulsed in rhythm with my heart, as if acknowledging my presence. "Help me," she sang, her voice mingling with the wind. It was a plea, a command, a whisper tangled in desperation. "What do we do?" Lila urged, the urgency rising in her tone. "How do we free her?" With the shadows plotting behind us and the storm swirling around the lighthouse, the answer eluded me. I turned my gaze back to the Songkeeper. "Can you hear me?" I called out, desperation lacing my voice. "Tell us what we need to do." The Songkeeper stepped closer to where light met shadow, her expression fragile. "You must reclaim the song," she said softly, her eyes locking with mine. "For I am bound between worlds. Fear binds me, yet love can release me." Understanding surged within me as I let her words wash over me. It was not simply about saving her, it was about embracing the light beyond the fear threatening to engulf us both. Together, I told Lila. "We sing for her." "Sing." She glanced at me, confusion flickering across her face. "What do we sing?" "The melody," I replied urgently, recalling those nights I had heard it echo from the lighthouse. "We sing her song and match its rhythm with our hearts. It is the only way to shatter the darkness." We positioned ourselves near the window, the tempest swirling outside ferociously. I grasped Lila's hand tightly, feeling a current flow between us. "Just like in our dreams," I said. As the Songkeeper inhaled, ready to merge her voice with ours, shadows began to creep back into the room, hungry for the light and vibrating with malice. I felt Lila's grip tighten, and I knew it was now or never. On 3, I counted, sensing the shadows press against the door. 1, 2, 3. We began to sing, channeling the very melody that had drawn me here in the first place. With every note, I felt warmth emanate from the core of my being, blending with the Songkeeper's voice. But then, it hit me. Fear flooded through me, doubt clawing at my mind. What if this was a trick? What if uniting our song led to doom? Through the haze of uncertainty, I stole a glance at Lila. Her eyes were fierce and bright as she clung to the light that flickered above. And the Songkeeper herself began to glow, a wave of energy radiating throughout the room. As our voices intertwined, the shadows screamed, thrashing against the walls, threatening to snuff out our newfound light. The wind howled, and I could feel the pulse of uncertainty hanging in the air. But I pushed through. I poured every ounce of hope and determination into the melody, wishing with all my heart for the Songkeeper to be free, for the darkness to be banished. With one final note that rippled into the storm, the shadows exploded outward, cascading away from us. The lantern shone bright, illuminating not just the hazy room, but overflowing into the swirling darkness beyond. Then there was silence. The storm's rage dulled to a quiet whisper, leaving behind a haunting tranquility. Lila and I halted, breathless, hearts racing. The Songkeeper hovered above us, her form finally shedding the burden of shadows. "Thank you," she sang softly, her voice now mere echoes of the past. "You have freed me." As she dissipated into a mist of light, I felt warmth envelop me. But with that warmth came a flicker of uncertainty. What had we truly released? The light and dark danced around each other, neither fully retreating, and just as I opened my mouth to speak, the shadows began to twist together anew at the edges of my vision, forming figures that loomed ominously. Questions writhed in my mind. Was this battle truly over? The lighthouse stood still, a silent guardian amidst a vast sea. We had triumphed, but something lingered, unresolved. Would the darkness return, or had we only postponed its inevitable grasp? I looked to Lila, who shared my bewilderment. What now? She asked, her voice trembling. A shiver raced down my spine. We don't know, I admitted, my gaze locked on the horizon. But the storm, it's not finished with us yet. As the final echoes of the Songkeeper faded into the wind, questions floated unanswered in the air, leaving us standing at the edge of possibility.